Hi everyone, I'm Daphne from IBlieve, and welcome to our college series. IB Year 2 students and graduates from all over the world have gathered the best tips and tricks which can help you in your college application process. We know at times it can seem daunting, but we hope through this series that we can help you gain more confidence in yourself and in your abilities because we believe in you.
What are honors colleges and how can I apply to them?
Yeah, so honors colleges are present in many US universities. The ones I know of and applied to and was able to get into are Boston University and University of Michigan. Honors colleges, basically, you can research if the university has it. Typically, it's a more rigorous curriculum. Typically, it's liberal arts focused. So for me, I really wanted to do a liberal arts program, but I also really liked University of Michigan. So kind of one way to kill two birds with one stone was to apply to University of Michigan, but their honors program, so I could be in a big university that I liked, but still get the liberal arts feel in a smaller community. So it's more rigorous. It gives you more of an elevated kind of curriculum. You have more kind of, there are other privileges that come with it, like dorm room choices and class selections. But I think the best thing that I can say about honors colleges is when you're applying, to really show off that kind of academic and intellectual curiosity that you have, because you already got in with your kind of extracurriculars and your interesting essays, but honors colleges is much more academic. So for Boston University, there was a Kilacha on the honors college, and I applied to that directly while applying to Boston. And I had to just say, why do you want to attend? So I talked about the liberal arts vibe that I was looking for. And for Michigan, University of Michigan, I first got into University of Michigan, then I was able to apply to the honors program there. And their questions were very academic. It sounded like a TOK essay. It was like, how do we address skepticism in science? So with those essays, you have to be a bit more academic and show that you can write research papers well and things like that.
Our next question is how do you handle deferrals, waitlisting, and rejections from universities?
That is a fantastic question, especially during this very difficult time of COVID. First of all, when it comes to deferrals and waitlisting, which are more or less the same thing, you have to remember that there is a second chance. You can redeem yourself. Just because you were deferred or just because you were waitlisted does not mean you're any less of a good student or any less of a great candidate to that school. It simply means that you perhaps did not meet certain aspects of their first round of determining and factoring in all of your, holistic application and other such. A good example of how to handle these things is to just keep moving forward because again, getting deferred, getting waitlisted, it's not the end of the world. In fact, these universities will often send you a letter going, this is what we want you to do, and this is the way that you can actually get into our university. Just do these things, and we will, look at your application again, and there's going to be a higher, a higher probability of us accepting you because we can see that you really want our university. I'll give you a good example. Uh, when I was doing my applications, time 3 years ago, I was deferred from one of my universities that I did an early application for. And their specific email back to me was, we loved your application. We just need to see more commitment from you to us. So they sent me two more essay prompts and they were like, choose between these two, write a new essay, send back your application to us, and we'll consider you. And lo and behold, once I did that, they actually did send me an offer saying, we accept you. Do you accept us? Now that's deferrals and waitlisting. When it comes to rejections, much like everything else in life, whether it's a rejection from a school, a job, a significant other that you'd like to date, and other such, it's very important to think like progressively, like think in terms of moving forward, because you don't want to hold yourself back by dwelling too much on that particular rejection. With the 5 stages of grief, it's very important to really let yourself cry it out, punch up. Don't punch a human being, but like punch a punching bag. Something that's appropriate, of course. Feel the anger, feel the sadness, let yourself grieve the fact that you were rejected, But after an appropriate amount of time, you really need to stand back up and keep moving forward, because dwelling on rejections will only cause more obstacles to yourself. And you don't want to do that. You want to be someone who can push up from the ground after being, thrown down, and really keep marching forward, because that's the only way that you're going to grow as a person. Now, when it comes to university rejections, you have to remember that with social media, everything gets amplified. So I remember when my college applications started coming in and the offers started coming in, some rejection letters as well, there was an intense scrutiny on social media that was amplified by people who were getting into universities and colleges that, let's say, other people weren't. Whether it was a Snapchat shout out or an Instagram tagging of a friend, or even one of those big Facebook status posts, yay, I got into XYZ university, these things can have an adverse effect on you if the rejection is particularly difficult, because you see one of your peers, one of your friends, one of your mutual friends, your cousins, your relatives getting into that university. And I think the best way to handle all of this, if you feel that you're getting overwhelmed, is to simply take a step back from social media, respect the fact that you need time to go through the rejection, and at the same time remember to be kind to yourself. If you need to sit on the couch, cry into a gallon of ice cream because you didn't get into your dream university, so be it. But the point is that after you're done, you set it down and you keep going forward. You look forward to the rest of your offers, you look forward to really getting into university, and you celebrate the fact that you're done with the IB.
Yeah, that was very well said. I guess the only thing I would like, a few things that I would add is, I think the first thing is it's important to be aware that these things can happen. So just be aware and be ready. Like for me personally, I did not really know that deferral was a thing. Like it's kind of weird to say, but I didn't really know about it. So I also applied, like John did, I applied to my dream school early, restricted early action actually, and I got deferred. And the days leading up to that, I was just expecting an acceptance or a rejection. So when I got a deferral, my mood was very weird. Like I didn't know how to think about it. Some people think of deferral as a waiting rejection. Other people are like, oh, you didn't get rejected, at least you have a second chance. I took the latter mindset. So I think, always be positive. And like John said, there are many ways where you can change your deferral or your waitlist into an acceptance. It's not very common, but one thing you can do if you're deferred is send the university updates. A lot of them don't want updates, but if they allow you to update on your portal, maybe update them with an award you won, or with your updated transcript, or with the academic research paper you did, or some other accomplishment, they will take that into consideration. And I don't have experience with waitlists, but I think it's similar. There's a way to appeal to them. I actually know of one university, it's actually UC Berkeley, that they allow you to appeal if you get rejected. Like they actually allow you to appeal and try one more time to just prove to them that you belong there. And historically, this has only worked a handful of times, I think. But the fact that they're giving you that offer, that like John said, one of his universities emailed him and asked him to do something. If they're giving you that offer, it is worth taking it. So that's for deferrals and waitlists. And I also kind of talked about rejection, but the social media thing that John talked about with rejections is very important. And another thing also is to just remember how arbitrary and random the college application process is, and how many applicants are applying, especially with COVID. The application numbers are insane. So a lot of the times when you get rejected, it has nothing to do with you personally. Your grades are fine, your extracurriculars were fine, but maybe there was just this little boost that you needed that you didn't have, that the university thought another student had, but that is totally fine. And take time to feel a rejection from a safety school and a rejection from a far reach school hits equally, or will hit. So take time for yourself, but also take time to be grateful for what you have, especially if you've already gotten acceptances.
The next question we have here is, what are the specific characteristics between liberal arts and research institutions?
I think some main differences would be that liberal arts colleges typically focus on the arts, the humanities, and the sciences, whereas research universities typically have a less of a focus on arts and humanities, although it's still there. But some other big difference would be class size. So liberal arts colleges tend to be smaller than research institutions. And also in terms of teaching, a lot of these liberal arts colleges, since they don't focus as much on research, the professors are very dedicated to teaching the undergraduate students. In research institutions, a lot of the professors are very focused on publishing their own research. So sometimes undergraduate classes may be taught by a teaching assistant or something like that. So the teaching level, I think, is a little bit more hands on in a liberal arts college, and the class size is smaller. But other than that, I'm not too sure about the difference.
Great. Okay. And next, what are the pros and cons of the, taking the International Baccalaureate Diploma program in regards to U.S. universities and colleges? Like, do they prefer IB? Do they prefer AP? What are your, thoughts?
That's a fantastic question, and I love it because I actually have a lot of personal experience with this. Having now done 2 years of a liberal arts university education in the U.S., um, I've had my fair share of IB versus AP arguments. On the one hand, I personally feel that the IB prepared me for university spectacularly. The amount of essay writing I did in the IB, the amount of preparation we did for the EE, the IAs, other such, it truly proved to be significant in terms of how well prepared I was for university. My background in university is majoring in international relations and minoring in urban planning. Both courses require a lot of essay writing, not just essay writing in terms of answering a question, but also how to write an academic paper, cite sources, other such. In that sense, the IB was almost a perfect preparatory program for all of the things that I'm doing. I think between the fact that you had to do a math, a science, humanities, other such, and English in the IB program, the same applies to many universities' core subjects for liberal arts. For example, here at Fordham University in New York, you're required to do a foreign language. You're required to do one course of English literature, two courses of a science, whether it's a biological science or a physical science. You're supposed to do some philosophy and theology, which applies to the TOK program for IB. So I think that in terms of preparing me for university, the IB program really was almost perfect. However, at the same time, you have to remember that the IB program was not engineered specifically for US colleges. So there are aspects of it that do not necessarily apply to the US university system, or curriculum of academics. That being said, I have a rather funny story. In one of my theology classes, my professor asked, "Who's done AP program?" Couple of hands raised. Who did the IB program? Couple of hands raised. Who didn't? Who just did a typical high school program? Some hands raised. And he said, "Everyone that did the IB program has my respect in the room." And I was like, "Really?" It turns out that his children are doing the IB program, and he said that I have never seen such a well thought out program that could prepare you for university. I he said that his one of his relatives did the AP program and was completely blown away by university. His children who are currently doing the IB, he feels that they are infinitely more prepared for a university. Of course, that is one professor's anecdote. Um, from my personal experience, the only con that I really see with the IB is that there is so much time crunch when you're doing the IB. They fit almost 4 years of university level work into 2 years. The reality of university is that your courses only last for one semester. So if you have a final project similar to an IA or an EE, it's only going to last maybe 3 months. And so the same amount of time crunch, procrastination, um, cramming that you have learned in IB has to be undone because it won't work in university. So yeah, that's my take on it.
I really echo a lot of what John said, and I think it's important to just consider that yeah, IB is actually I think a European board. Like it wasn't it not it's not an American board unlike the AP. So it makes sense that AP is typically might be more recognized or more common. But I think, John and I both did IB and we both got into good universities. So it's not to say that one gives you an advantage over the other, because I have many friends that I'm making who got into the universities I'm planning to attend who are like, oh, who did AP, who did IB. It's a very like even split. And I think, yeah, IB really prepares you very well. Similar to John, I'm also planning to major in politics and economics, and a lot of the essay writing I did in my IB politics and econ class will hopefully help me in IB. So
To add to what Priyasha said, it's very important to remember that when it comes to liberal arts, there is plenty of cross-curricular academic work, whether it's philosophy to theology, or perhaps economics and business, political science to international relations. The overlap between these curriculums is prominent in both Ivy and US university academics. The primary goal of liberal arts is really to expand your scope and your awareness of other subjects, which is something that the IB already does. So, when you really think about it, the IB is somewhat like liberal arts for high school to a certain extent. And it prepares you quite well for the liberal arts system of the US in their universities.
Great. So we have one last question, which is how do you determine your safety target and reach schools or universities that you plan to apply to?
I guess a general thing to look out for is the SAT scores and the GPA, like the average SAT score, the average GPA, and where you fall. Are you in the 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile? I'm not really sure which one would count as safety target reach. I'm assuming if you fall in the 25th percentile of your SAT, it could be more of a target reach. But so that is one way to look at it. So to compare your scores with the scores of admitted students. Another way to look at it is acceptance rate, but I would not really recommend this because acceptance rate, for international students, first of all, it's much lower. And also sometimes they don't update the acceptance rate. So you can look at it to get a general idea of like the prestige level of the university, I guess, or the selectivity of the university. But especially this year with test optional schools, me personally, I did not have an SAT score. When you don't have a SAT score, it's very hard for me to give kind of objective answers on how to determine safety target reach. But if you consider your GPA and your IB predicted score, because those are two statistics that you still have with you, you can consider that along with your extracurriculars, how you feel you might compare to other students in the universities that you're applying to. But other than that, I think a lot of it, this sounds very weird, but a lot of it could also be intuition, like what you feel in terms of the selectivities of the schools. But statistics and fit really matter as well.
Yash is absolutely right. When it comes to university applications, what you should be applying to, or where you want to apply to, there are many factors that contribute to that decision. Um, it's very important to remember that your safety target and reach universities all have their own probabilities of rejecting or accepting you. Your safety school could very well reject you. I had a friend who got into all of her reach schools but got rejected from her safety schools, which I don't know. It's absurd, but it happens. The truth of the matter is that when you determine your safety target and reach universities, and you're really trying to fill out kind of what facets and what factors will contribute to that, the first thing you need to remember is that it's you going to that school. So let's say your parents are going to be like, I want you to get into Harvard University. And you're going to be like, I like it. That's going to be my reach university. That's fine for your long list. But then you need to figure out from there, are your grades good enough? Is the acceptance rate high enough? Is the fit of the school good enough for you? Is it, do you like a campus setting? Do you like a city setting? Which coast of the United States do you like? There are so many factors when it comes to determining safety, target, and reach universities. It's very easy to just decide for yourself, oh, an Ivy League school is my reach university. My target school is going to be top 100. My safety school is a top 200 school. The reality of that is it's not true. Almost not at all. Because the factors that lead into whether you get into university, more or less, it is insignificant to what you think. So whether or not it's a top 10, top 20, top 30, top 50, top 100, top 200 university, you need to determine for yourself, is it realistic? And do I want to go to this university? Will I fit in? Is the subjects that they're offering really what I want? Is the class size, so professor to student ratio in a class, is that something that appeals to me? And then I think another very important factor in determining safety target and reach universities is whether or not your IB grades are going to cut it. And I know we said that academics is not everything, but if you really boil down college applications, the most basic tenet is, can XY number grade, whether it's a GPA or an SAT score or an IB points, final points, is that going to be enough to get me into the waiting room of a university? Just to get your foot in the door, shall we say. So aside from academics, the next thing you need to consider is environment. This is something that I have seen too many students suffer from. They think that this university is prestigious. They think that it's so good because people know it by its name alone. They like the fact that there's a lot of like high tier professors who work there. There might be a US senator that teaches political ethics in this university. Wow. But then when you actually get to that university, you realize, oh, I don't like the campus setting. Oh, I don't like the city. Oh, I can't make friends here. Or the diversity of international students is so low, I feel like I'm the only international student in my class. And then that's when you start to suffer as a person. You start realizing that, this dream university of mine, maybe it's not the right fit. And then you go down this rabbit hole of, do I stay in this university and suffer? Do I transfer from my dream university to somewhere that I feel I can really thrive and be a healthy person in? These things are something that you really need to factor, because not only will it be expensive for you and your family, but it's going to take an emotional and physical toll on you yourself. If you really hate your campus, or if you really can't make friends, you're going to end up suffering regardless of how much you love the curriculum or love the school or like to brag on social media that you go to XYZ school. So yes, that's how you determine safety target and reach universities.
We have one final, like really, really final question, which is, how did you navigate the dynamic between your parents, counselors, friends, and yourself during the application process? And how did you handle, the pressures of social media along the way?
This is an interesting question because this was actually one of my kind of the main major sources of concern during this process. Like, I wasn't even worried about how I would write my essays or anything. I was actually concerned about this the most because my parents are both quite strict, and they both are, I guess, high achieving parents, you could say. So they had the mentality of go big or go home, in the sense like they really wanted a reach heavy college list for me. And when we first revealed my college list to my counselor, this was in towards the end of grade 11, and I'm a very present thinker, so I really had not thought about my college list. My dad made one for me. Don't recommend that, but he made one for me. I only knew about my dream schools that I wanted, but I hadn't thought of anything else. And we had presented it to my counselor, and she was like, this seems very reach heavy. And my dad kind of got triggered. He was like, what does she mean by that? It's not reach heavy. You're going to do your best. You're going to apply. You're going to get in. He really had that mindset. And he wanted me to apply to all the Ivy Leagues and everything. And that's my dad. My counselor is here saying, no, you need more safeties. And to be honest, in this case, I was siding with my counselor, and it was really me who had to coach my dad through the process because he wanted to be really involved, and I'm grateful. But I had to coach him through the target safety reach, and I had to tell him that, we're not going to get into the Ivy Leagues if I only apply there and things like that. So I really recommend like being always realistic with yourself. And there may be strict parents, but you have to tell them that the college process is so arbitrary and challenging as it is, that if you put all your eggs in a specific basket, it might not work. I know some people who only applied to Harvard and got in. That is not the majority of us. So yeah, I would definitely say to always think, research, talk to your parents, have that conversation, be realistic with yourself. In terms of friends, like, at least for me, I didn't really have much competition with my friends because they were very STEM based and they applied to more the STEM based schools. Some of them even only applied to their home countries in Asia. So that competitiveness wasn't really there. But I also, like I said before, I think establishing a good friend dynamic is important. Like, do we share or do we not share? How much do we share? You shouldn't feel pressured to share. And about social media, I would not recommend going on social media the day you got rejected or the hour you got rejected or deferred or waitlisted, because when you see people from your school, especially my school, every year people get into very, very competitive colleges. So it's kind of like a given that, oh, I didn't get in, I'm sure X, Y, and Z did. And you tend to feel very negative, and you tend to direct your negativity towards the person, like, oh, but they didn't do this extracurricular that I did, and that is really negative. And I do not encourage it at all to compare yourself to someone else or beat someone down because you didn't get in. So the minute that negativity arises, leave your phone.
I absolutely agree with almost everything Priyasha said. Coming from a multi-generational mixed heritage and ethnicity, their aspirations and their want to live vicariously through me really came out. And I think this comes especially relevant to a lot of Asian families, immigrant families, multi generational families. Um, your parents, your uncles, your aunties, your grandparents, even your great grandparents, if they are still alive, will have some sort of say on your college application system. Um, whether it was aim for Harvard or aim for the Ivy Leagues or what even is a safety school. You don't need a safety school. What are you, a coward? Lots of these comments and statements, they really get under your skin. And more than that, it will start to influence the way you think. And that really shouldn't be the case. Because the moment that you start doing things for other people, you are no longer being genuine to yourself. The whole college application system is about making yourself progress forward. It's not about your parents, it's not about your siblings, it's not about your cousin who, you know, didn't get into this college and wants to get into this college and he's going to live through you. They're not going to university. You are. And what that means is that at some point, you need to put your foot down as a student, as the applicant. You need to put your foot down, draw a line in the sand, and say, you guys have to stop crossing this. That's my final word. Because you're not going to university, I'm going to university. I love my grandparents, but they can't keep telling me to go to their alma mater. That ain't gonna work. And the same goes with my parents. And there is that dynamic. You must remain respectful to your elders, especially if you're from an social ethnic or social cultural perspective and background. That being said, I think that they will respect it more. At least in my case, they respected the fact that I wanted to take the reins for myself, start to be independent in high school by being independent in choosing my colleges and universities. And at the end of the day, there's really nothing you can do if they keep trying. You just have to put some sort of distance between you and them because, again, like I keep saying, at the end of the day, you're going to university. It's not your grandmother who's going to attend whichever university you enter into. Regarding your counselors, hopefully, I pray that all of you watching this have a good counselor or a good advisor, because a good counselor and advisor should not be influencing you in terms of, oh, I heard that this university is fantastic for you and you should only apply to this university. They are the people that should be advising you on, oh, you think these six universities have characteristics that you might like. Perhaps you want to research into them and maybe apply to them. They are the ones that you go to asking, hey, do you think my college application essay is up to par? Do I need to brush it up? Other such. When it comes to your friends, the dynamic is different because every person has their own friend groups, right? We all have our own friends, and all of our friends have different personalities. In my personal experience, many of my friends they didn't really care about where you were. They would support you. They'd be like, "Hey, you need help with your essay? I'll read it and I'll help you proofread it." Um, Other times they'll be like, "Oh, you look pretty down. Like, you need to go out or something and raise your spirits." But when it came to college applications, acceptances, rejections, deferrals, and waitlisting, that's when the dynamic, in a way, changed because now it felt like, to a certain extent, you're competing with your friends. Of course, they are still your friends. You love them, you care for them. They will do the same for you. So when it came to rejections and deferrals and waitlisting, the best thing you could do was to offer some support and not pass judgment. Don't give them criticism. Just be there for them as their friend without or being objective in that sense. And when it came to acceptances, congratulate them. Should they have gotten into something that a university that you did not get into and you're disappointed, congratulate them out of good faith. If you don't want to congratulate them, say nothing, because the worst thing you can do is to break a relationship, platonic, romantic, however way you want to, because you felt bad in that instance and you wanted to project your anger and sadness onto someone else who deserves to be happy. Finally, how did I handle social media? Oh, I did not. I am the epitome of a bad IB student when it came to social media and college applications because I did not control the way that I looked into social media. In fact, to a certain extent, and this is a word that my parents used on me, they said, why do you keep torturing yourself by looking at everyone else's, announcement? And looking back on it, I guess I was just a bit, I don't know, like masochistic. I don't know. I just wanted to feel more disappointment to a certain extent. It was unhealthy, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, don't copy what I did. Don't take your phone and your laptop and your tablet and have them on Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you're just scrolling for who got into where and this person got into Yale, this person got into Harvard, this person got into Stanford, this person got into Cambridge or Oxford. That's not healthy if you are getting negatively affected. So from my personal experience, I'd like to offer all of you the advice to, if you really feel disappointed and you're really getting down because of social media, just lock it up. Like put it away. Don't open Snapchat. Don't open your social media for a little while until you can handle the emotions and the rejections that you have experienced. Because otherwise, you're just gonna spiral out, and you won't feel happy once you do get, you won't feel like you can be a celebratory mood once you do actually get an offer and you were accepted.
Yeah, that was said really well. I just wanted to reiterate something about the control aspect. So even my like parents and grandparents, kind of like John was saying, like when I got into my safety and target schools, a lot of the times I had to deal with the wait, what is that? What university is that? What's the rank? Like those questions come up a lot when like your cousin, anyone, they're just like, wait, which one is this? They're like, I want to celebrate for you, but I don't know anything about this university. And that's not your fault at all. It's not your fault that they only know Harvard and Stanford and Berkeley. You should still be happy where you get in. So yeah, like don't let that influence you. to such a great extent, like find the balance. And about counselors, like what John said was very true. A good counselor is somebody who's not going to be imposing. They're not going to say to you, don't apply here, you're not good enough. And they're also not going to say you have to apply here or something extreme like that. Like my counselor was very, very she was very much a spectator. Like I was always the one telling her, I want to do this. I thought I would do this. She's like, yeah, I think that would be good. Or sometimes she's like, actually, historically, I've seen this pattern, so maybe you can try this instead. But, I know some counselors who are very controlling. Like either they write someone's essays for them, gives them the full idea for the essay, or kind of tells the person like, oh, you need to take a specific AP course to supplement your IB, or a specific IB course, change it to HL because it's not good enough. Like they give some of these kind of formulaic advice, which is like, if you do X, you'll get into X college, and I just don't think, I'm personally not a fan of those tutors that kind of talk like that. But as long as there's a good balance, and as long as you are the focus and your strengths and your passions are coming out.
And do you have any final words?
Yes. So I really hope that this entire video helps all of you out there. I understand and I really feel for all of you who are going through the IB program and college applications. I went through the same experience myself. Please stay safe with COVID and be healthy. Don't burn out. Do whatever you can. That is, of course, healthy and appropriate to keep yourselves happy and healthy. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll be happy to answer them. Bye.
I really wish you guys all the best of luck. Like I'm a senior. My senior year was during the pandemic. I couldn't experience a lot of senior year stuff, and I had to apply kind of all secluded in my house. But you guys can do it. A lot of people in the batch of 2021 did it, and we're all rooting for you guys as well. And just remember that the college process is very personal. No matter how much advice we give, no matter what you read, you have to really go through it yourself to kind of become a master of it on your own. So yeah, but if you have any questions, comment down below.
All right, so thank you again, Priyasha and Jonathan, for answering all of the questions that we had for you today. Thank you for taking the time to answer each one of them really detailed and really well thought and everything. So again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to IBlieve, and we'll see you soon. Bye.